The body language of Summer Wells' parents not adding up.
There are a lot of things that are missing that should be there from someone who's missing a child.
Well, whoever has my daughter, I pray and hope that they have not harmed her and they bring her back to us safe and sound.
And I'm so afraid that she's locked away.
And the story of how the 5-year-old went missing from her house still not making sense.
I feel in my heart that somebody has came up here and took her and has lured her away from here.
She's the one I still have questions about. She's the one I still don't think she's said everything she knows.
The body language expert who sat down with Summer Wells' parents, sharing some behind-the-scenes details you might have never heard. But first, do me a favor, hit the like, hit the subscribe, and hype the episode. I'm Matt Johnson, and this is Justice. Here to help talk about it and break it down, we have a very special guest. We have Scott Rouse, body language expert, behavior analyst, host of the Behavior Panel, and Behavior X. Thanks for being on the program. I'm fascinated about this case and getting your thoughts.
Thanks for having me on here. I've really been looking forward to this.
This is a case that you've done a lot of work on. You actually had a one-on-one with the parents of Summer Wells, including on the Dr. Phil show. So I want to play those clips first and get your take, and also take us behind the scenes, behind the curtain of what it was like doing these interviews. So let me play the first clip and we'll watch it together.
What happened to Summer?
No.
Do you know who took Summer?
No.
But when you come home, when you first come home,
I'm not doing all that. I'm not going all the way back. I can't do this.
so listen,
Right.
they're trying to help. They're trying to help.
It's not helping me.
I know, but if they might
There's nothing more to remember.
calm down for a minute. Just,
No, I want to go.
these are tough questions.
No, I'm being interrogated again, and I don't want to do this anymore. Yes, I am.
We'll stop. I want you to feel comfortable.
No, I want. Oh, and I want to go home.
Calm down.
I don't want
Sorry.
She walks out. What are you thinking at that moment? Take me, but what did we not see? I also hear someone saying, "We're sorry."
This is the very end of the interrogation. So before that, there were a couple of hours of us talking, even before we went in. This was a soft interrogation. So before you do something like that, you have to build rapport. So we hung around and talked for a while, and everybody kind of got to know each other and give the feeling that we were familiar with each other, that kind of thing. So this was after a lot of questioning had gone on, but we didn't go in and like, what's going on? How do you do this? What about that? You have to do it very, the approach is very smooth. It's really organic, because as you can see, emotionally, sometimes people will go way off in a direction you aren't expecting, but it was the questions that came up before that were the important part there that led up to that. So because we were talking about, as horrible as all this sounds, you have to talk about what possibly might have happened to the child and what might be going on now. Why would you think this would happen or that would happen if they bring those things up? And in this situation, Greg and I had been, there's a way you can kind of box someone in to get what you need from them. And it's sort of like Greg and I have almost perfected the good cop, bad cop situation. So, and because it doesn't look like that at all, and you really don't really call it that. But for example, he would ask questions that would get her kind of get her kind of worked up, and then she would sort of run to me, and I would be really nice and really, hey, this is the way things are. This is what's, don't worry, whatever. And then Greg would start asking her a question, and then she'd get all fired up again. Then she'd sort of come back to me, and I would say, okay, well, whatever the coolest situation out, then I would ask her a couple of questions. So you do that. Then Greg starts being nice because I come on aggressively. And then, so as Greg's being nice, then you see if they sort of open up to that person, because you've gone from the person who's dominant and in charge and being that person to being nice. If I keep doing this, maybe this will go easier for me. So, and you're looking at all kinds of different things psychologically from that aspect as well. So we did that. It went to Greg being the aggressive one, then it came back, or being the nice one, then it came back to Greg being the aggressive one. And when she ran to me, I asked her if she heard anything about the cornbread mafia. And I just kind of lightly put it on there. And that's what set her off, was when I brought up cornbread mafia. So, and you know, you always hear these tales about cornbread mafia, it doesn't exist, and this, that. There are cartels of those kind of things running in some of these little towns around America that are, you know, that are into drugs or trafficking or whatever. And people dismiss them because they think, oh, it's a bunch of hillbillies and rednecks, and they don't know what they're doing, all that. And I can assure you that they do know what they're doing. Those things are still alive and well out there. So that's what we're dealing with. There's the very end of talking about some of those things. And that's why she gets upset. So
was she being truthful, or did you detect deception?
Between the two, we felt like she wasn't telling us as much as I got the impression she knew more than she was letting us know. So, and from Don's perspective, Don is, I don't have a problem with Don. A lot of people do. I talked to him for a long time, a couple of times. I think I don't have a problem with what he said at all. I don't think he had anything to do with it, you know. But the last person to see the missing person, those are the people you want to talk to. It was Candace and her mother. The last ones to actually see her, I believe. I've never talked to the boys, so I don't know what happened there, if they actually saw her or whatever. But I left with the impression that she knew more than she was letting us know.
Well, let's talk about your assessment after. So she walks out from this clip that was on the Dr. Phil show. And this is what, about 4 years ago or something like that?
Yeah, it was a while back.
So let me put this back on our screen, and you do a debrief with Dr. Phil on the set, and then we'll talk about it.
She's down in her chin.
You ask them a question and they feel they're being threatened, you'll see that chin drop. It protects the neck. It's something that happens from your limbic system, psychological thing that happens. So the head goes down. That's what we're seeing there, along with a lot of I. She talks about it's not working for me, those types of things.
They get very emotional. They lock up. Their throat is protected by putting their chin down over their throat. And then typically in pre-confession, their body will open up, and that's when you close. That's when you go after them.
Yeah.
We wondered.
We wondered what?
Yeah. Well, we wondered if we were getting the whole story. We were under like I said before, we were under the impression she wasn't telling us everything. So that's the only coming away from that to this day. I think about that. We didn't get everything, so I don't know.
We also have some clips that I wanted you to take a look at from local news, and then we can kind of compare them to what you experienced on the show of Dr. Phil. Okay. So let me play one of these clips of when the mom, Candace, says what happened to the local news outlet. And this is shortly after the daughter disappeared.
I know she didn't walk away from this property by herself or off this yard by her swing. I feel in my heart that somebody has came up here and took her and has lured her away from here. Me and my mother and her were planting flowers. And we went in after we got done washing our hands, and she got a piece of candy from Grandma, and she wanted to go back over and see her brothers. And I said, okay. And I walked her all the way over to the porch. And I watched her walk into the kitchen where the boys were watching TV. And I told the boys, I said, watch Summer. I'll be back. And within 2 minutes, I came back. And I asked the boys where their sister was. And they said, she went downstairs, Mom, to play with her toys in the playroom. I said, okay. And I yelled downstairs for her a couple times. And I didn't get no answer, which was unusual because usually she always answers me. And so I went down there to check, and she was nowhere in sight. She was just gone. Okay,
so clearly she's appearing different than when you interacted with her on the Dr. Phil show. You know, there's been a lot of people speculating that maybe she was impaired or injured, or I don't know what the situation is. But what did you pick up on from at least what she was saying?
It's hard to. I always hate to say this because it's YouTube. We try to get to it as quickly as we can. The situation, but there's so much time that has to go through before you can just look at one clip and say, "Here's exactly what's going on." You can make a assumptions about someone's behavior that suggest they may be being dishonest or maybe being honest. In this situation, her recall looks a little strange to me, and we're not seeing a whole lot of the cues and tells that, like, you know, she's being dishonest, but we're not seeing a whole lot of things that tell you she's being honest. But since I've talked to him in person, I know that she acts differently than this. Once she's been able to think about all this and talk about it for a while, and this initial recalling of what happened, she's probably told this, you know, probably 30 or 40 times up to this point. So she's riding on what she said already to make sure that, not just to make sure because I'm lying, but to make sure the story is correct. And I would assume that there may be some kind of sedative or something in play here as well, because the eye movement and the way the eyes look and like the deep breaths when they happen. I'm not saying she's drunk or on drugs or anything, but maybe it's something to calm her down or something, because there's she's very different here than she was when we talked to her later on. And this is right after her child's gone missing. So instead of saying, oh, I think she's guilty and that's why this and this, you have to look at it like, okay, her child's missing. Let's say that she didn't do anything. Maybe she's sedated herself, or somebody's given her something to help her calm down a little bit. Somebody's been through the worst time of their life, a missing child. Having said that, there are a lot of things that are missing that should be there from someone who's missing a child and is really worried about him and is not concerned about themselves as they isn't concerned about the child as much as they are themselves. So again, we don't see what the grief muscle up here. It's where the little muscles in the glabella squish together and they push upward, whereas the upper part of the forehead pushes downward, makes like an upside down horseshoe. It's called the grief muscle. You don't see it every time somebody's grieving, but a whole lot you do. There's just a lot missing here that should be there. That's what I tend to look for first, the things that are missing. And the tears, the asking for help to find her, being calm. Again, that could go to some kind of, sedation situation. But there's nothing here I can put my finger on and go, for sure she's guilty, or for sure she did it or didn't do it.
No, I think that's fair, because you're not seeing the full context of being there, number one, the editing, number two, and number three, the full interview, right? So you're not in that space, but you were there when you interviewed them with Dr. Phil and on the Dr. Phil show. So now let me play a clip of when Candace is on Dr. Phil and you were watching this interaction with Dr. Phil, and we'll talk about it.
You took Summer in the front door.
Yes.
And you said to the three boys, keep an eye on Summer.
Yes.
Okay. Then you did what?
Then I went back outside to my mom's camper, which was right next to the house. And I had to fix her knee brace for her.
Okay. She had a knee brace on?
Yeah.
And that took?
Only 2 minutes.
Okay. And then what'd you do?
I went back in the house.
When you went back in, what'd you see?
The three boys sitting there watching TV.
Okay. And no Summer?
No Summer.
Okay. What'd you do then?
I asked the boys where she was at. And they told me that she went downstairs to play with her toys.
What'd you do then?
Well, I hollered for her at first.
And no response.
No response.
So what'd you do?
So I went directly down there. I looked for her everywhere I could look. In the room, under the blankets, whatever. And she was gone.
Okay, so what'd you notice?
See, that bothered me as well, because you don't go till I looked under the blankets. There's no need to look under the blankets. You'd know, even though it's a pile of blankets, you would know if the little child's in there. You'd be running around looking everywhere. You wouldn't, the approach wouldn't be as calm as she's describing. Maybe it was a little bit more animated. Maybe there's a lot more going on, but there's the excitement that you relive when you go back over a situation that you've been in. I'm telling you about almost falling off a cliff. I wouldn't say, we were there at the edge of the cliff and something happened. The ground gave way and I started sliding down the hill. And luckily I grabbed a limb I'd be like, dude, I was on the edge of this cliff. Something happened and the dang dirt fell off and I fell and I grabbed this. You're going to start animating. You're going to start telling things that because you'll go into reliving that, not reliving it. You'll be replaying that in your mind and going through those steps as you're explaining what happened. not seeing any of that.
Well, what was happening also behind the scenes? So do you have like earphones on? Are you like behind the curtain? Like, because you're analyzing it, right?
Oh, we're sitting in the audience. We're probably 20 feet away. Greg and I are. And just there's a shot in this. I know that you hadn't been able to get the whole thing. I wish I'd known about this earlier. I could have gotten you better footage of it. There we are, right there in the front.
There you go.
Yeah. So we're right there watching, and it's a great seat because they're sitting in these chairs that get you really high up. It's like you're sitting in a high chair, and you can see everything. And it's really hard to relax in those chairs. So if you get uncomfortable, you're a little bit uncomfortable in the first place. But then if you get any more uncomfortable, it starts showing up easily. It'll start moving around and those kind of things. That's why I was sort of under the impression she might have been under some sort of sedation here as well, be it alcohol or something, a pill or something to make her calm down. I'm not trying to make her sound like a drug addict or anything. I'm just trying to say, when you see somebody like that, you wonder if there's something in play that would help sedate that situation for them, help them calm down or stay calm. They've never been on TV before. They're not townspeople. They live up in the mountain. They're up in the hills, and in the middle of nowhere. And then you're coming on, sitting in front of 500 people, and it's on TV. And you've seen that show on TV, and it's Dr. Phil, who you've seen talk to people for years and years and years and years and years. And he's really good at what he does. He's asking these questions perfectly, and you're thinking about all those things. And you're under suspicion of killing somebody, or somebody's missing. So you have to take all those things into consideration as well. It's not just like me and you sitting down talking, and which a lot of people look at that and say, "Oh, this is because of this and this." You really have to be careful with these things, because you'll start saying something about somebody, and it won't be true. And then later on, you find out it's not true. And then there you look like an idiot, because you said, "I know this and this and this," and it's proven that they didn't do it. Or it's proven that they did and you thought they didn't. So it's really important you've got to take what's going on in real time and put all those things together, put that all in context with what you're dealing with and seeing.
A good point to make too, because, there's a lot of theories and YouTubers out there and whatnot, but there's been no charges in this case. There's been no body found. There's been, no reports of death. But, we are able to say if someone looks suspicious or if they're acting weird, and that it's just your personal views and your experience. I can tell you, I've been in the room with convicted killers, and I've been in the room with moms that are just pleading because they had nothing to do with their child missing. Like I have that experience too that a lot of people don't, and I hear you. One of the other things that you've been able to do in this case in your investigation is I have a clip from your other show, The Behavior Panel, and you were sitting down with Don in this clip that I'm going to air. And I just kind of wanted to get your thoughts on what he's saying there.
Everything was fine up to the point that I don't know what happened between Allie and that dude. I have no idea. But she dumped him off there and left.
So I'm going some more hard questions for you. Did you have anything at all to do with your daughter's disappearance?
Sir?
Did you have anything to do with Summer's disappearance?
No, sir.
Do you have any idea where she might be?
I wish to God I did. If I did, we'd go get her. I'd call TBI or whatever and say, "Look, I did this, I did that, I messed up. Can we please go get her now?" I would have done that a long time. I would have done that day one.
Do you have any reason?
Point in lying.
Do you have any reason to believe your wife knows anything?
No, I don't think so at all. She's too tore up.
Do you think she'd tell you if she did?
Yeah.
If she been in a state where you could ask her that and she may not remember if you were.
I've asked her many times, what about this? What about that?
What about what?
Like what about her mother?
A lot of people are going to say, well, and you'll see people on YouTube that don't have real life they don't spend a lot of time with other people interrogating them or talking to them, or actually they'll read the study or they'll read the books. They won't get into the studies of behavior, and they'll get into Paul Ekman, and Paul Ekman talks about what I'm getting ready to talk about as well. And you'll see somebody say no, like this. And then you'll see somebody say no. And the no will be illustrated, because that's an illustrator. You say, no, I didn't do it. Illustrators are the way your brain emphasizes specific words and phrases, like I did just then, specific words and phrases. So when he says no, he's confirming that no. That's one at that first question, because people say, no, he's shaking his head yes while he's saying no. That's different. That's the intricacies a lot of people don't get into. They'll hear one little blurb or something, say that means that for everything. So when he says no, but he's shaking his head, nodding his head yes, that's actually a confirmation nod. So in this situation, I believe he doesn't. I don't think he had anything to do with it, but it makes me question what he did ask his wife and what she and her answers to him. You know, whether she's. I was under the impression that maybe she knew more than she's letting on. I mean, it's a fine little road you got to walk before you can say, I think she did it or whatever. A lot of people can say that. I don't like to do that. I like to say things like, it looks like she knows more than she's telling us.
So does it look like their stories have been consistent in what we've looked at so far?
Pretty much. It's been fairly consistent. Sometimes you'll get a lot of details added onto things because they'll remember stuff later on. For example, in the news situation, that first clip we looked at, there wasn't as detailed. There weren't as many things to talk about, because as you sit back and you're laying up at night in the bed thinking about what happened and you're worrying about it and those kind of things, you'll remember the details throughout that day and the things that led up to that, and something will pop in your mind. A lot of people are under the impression that you can remember exactly what happened with something. Every time you think about something, you have a memory, it changes a little bit. I mean, people's clothes may be different. You may remember them being taller, shorter, over there instead of over here. Their sentence structure will be different, obviously, because you can't remember everything. But in this situation, he's got a little more information than he had when she first went missing. So that's why he adds the stuff. I would have told the TBI, I would have told these people and everything, because he's had time to learn about those situations and meet those people. And now his options are different as well.
I do want to play a little bit more of that initial interview that the parents gave. And they're actually saying, you know, please, wherever she is, please help us bring back our daughter.
Okay.
Well, whoever has my daughter, I pray and hope that they have not harmed her and they bring her back to us safe and sound.
And I'm so afraid that she's locked away. She's such a loving heart and everything, and I'm afraid that she won't be able to, I'm locked away where she can't be outside or play with a puppy or anything, love nature,
But I hope that they find her too and bring her home safely too.
But yeah, there's nothing. She disappeared without a trace. They haven't found anything, haven't found a body, nothing. And when you see cases like that, that's why I lose hope on Summer. I want to keep hope, but sometimes I lose hope.
Lose it.
And I think, well, maybe we won't never see her again, so I start thinking in past tense, sorry. But I'm trying to keep hope up. I'm trying to keep my prayers up and all that.
What are your thoughts on that? And the way that he's describing that he tries to keep hope and that he doesn't want to speak in the past tense.
Yeah, that everything we're seeing there shows you somebody who. Let's compare the two things. You might want to run them while we're talking, and because when you look at him and you look at her, his body language is completely different than hers. Granted, it's a guy. Granted, that's a guy. She's a woman, but she's very. Again, you can say, "Oh, that's autistic." She's on the spectrum or something like that, or sedated. But she's very still to be recalling or thinking about what could possibly happen or what would be going on with your child. That's the first concern we've seen in her brow right there. It's just a little bit. I don't think she's Botoxed at all in this situation, but he looks a little worried. He's thinking outside of what's going on. You see that rapid blink when he comes back from staring over to his right. That's because he's not snapping out of it, but he's thinking about those things, and that's what you do to kind of clear your mind as you come back. That not everybody does it, but in a situation like this, that rapid blinking, that little I don't know what you call it, little rapid blinking. When he looks back to him, it happened a couple of minutes ago. That lets you know he was deep in thought in that, and he's kind of coming out of it as he starts telling the rest of it. So he looks concerned to me. That's concern. And he's not sure what's happening. We see a lot of, on his left shoulder there, we see a lot of what are called single shoulder shrugs. Now, if his chin had been going toward that shoulder every time, the single shoulder shrug, then I would think maybe there's some deception going on there. I don't think so. She's really calm comparatively.
Yeah, and she appeared that way even, we've talked about whether or not she was sedated here or at a different level from when she was on Dr. Phil with you. She was also calm in that as well. I feel like the parents have always been kind of calm.
Yeah, he is. That's his personality type. And I say that from having spent some time with him. They haven't spent time with both of them. They're not boisterous. They're not verbose. They're country people, and you have to understand the mindset of that and where that's coming from. And the educational level there is not very high either. So that's why the vernacular is going to be a lot different than, say, yours or mine. And she's the one I still have questions about. She's the one I still don't think she's said everything she knows.
That's exactly what I wanted to ask you next, because I have this final thoughts clip from Dr. Phil almost. And, again, we're just talking about analyzing your analysis on the episode, which is really kind of cool. But let me play that and we'll talk about it.
I think they probably are aware of who's around them that is dangerous.
I think she has more knowledge than she's either acknowledging or sharing.
Yes.
One of the two.
We're on the same page.
And I believe that to the core of my soul.
Okay, so again, they were talking about that. What would you call it? Cornbread mafia? Is that right?
Yeah. And
so, just about like the fact that there could be dangerous people in the area. And I've actually seen an interview where they do a walkthrough of their house and their neighborhood. And in one of the local news clips, they were saying, we wish that the law was different to where police could go and do a door-to-door knock search of everybody's house in this neighborhood. And that kind of connects the two together for me in listening to this with you. But overall, I pulled the clip because they were saying that, Dr. Phil was saying that he believes that they know more, or one or the other does, that they're not letting on. So take it away.
Yeah. He's really good at that. Everybody goes, oh, it's Dr. Phil. He thinks this and that. I've seen him talk to people that we were getting ready to talk to, and he would get them right to the point of confessing to what happened. Then he would pull it back, and all four of us are in the green room going, "You got him, go, man! He's right there. Get him say." And he would pull back. He knows he's that guy's really good at that. He's really good at that. So he knows what he's doing. He knows how to ask questions, and he can look at a situation like this from a third person's perspective and see and make decisions about what's happening there I think they're correct as well. And what he's seeing on her is the same thing everybody else is seeing on her. And you get that feeling something isn't right. What's right is I think she's holding back information. She's not as open as Don is. That's why that's another reason I have a problem with Don. He's so open, he's laid back, and and she's not. Granted, you can say, oh, it's because of nerves, it's because of this and that. But compared to everything else, she hasn't changed much at all. When she's talking about these things, not much at all. Earlier, she was a little bit more bright-eyed, I think, at the beginning. I don't know how. She seemed more lively at the very beginning than she does now, or in the Dr. Phil situation. So,
to just kind of round this out, though, like you've had a few years to think about these interviews that you've done and your interactions with these people. What questions do you still have, or like, what would you have asked them anything differently, or?
No, there's probably, no. I think everything went, I think we got to ask most everything we wanted to. If she hadn't started crying and gotten up and left, I think we would have learned more, But I think we got to a point there, and that's another situation where you've got to know what's being asked, and you've got to see what's coming. And I know those clips don't show everything, so it's hard to get that stuff. But I think we would have gotten to ask other questions we wanted to ask in that organic situation, because you get someone thinking along you get them on a train of thought, and you get them headed down a path. And then you can't just call up and say, what about so-and-so? And you can't just go talk to them and ask them 2 or 3 questions out of the blue. You've got to finesse that thing. You've got to really, understand the way that works so you'll get the information you need.
Fascinating insight here. Thank you so much, Scott. How do we get a hold of you?
Just go to Scott Rouse on YouTube. Just put in my name and Behavior X will show up. That's my YouTube channel. And it shows what the email is there. I think it's bodylanguagequestions@gmail. Just email me there. And I get all those.
Well, I appreciate your time, and I hope to have you back on the show. Thank you.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you having me. I'll come on anytime. Just let me know.
5-year-old Summer Wells went missing from her home in Tennessee back in June of 2021, and somebody knows something. If you have any information in the case, please call 1-800-TBI-FIND. You can remain anonymous. Also, please check out the video section of this YouTube channel. I have a deep dive in the case with another body language expert, Susan Constantine. You'll hear from her, and also from a former homicide detective who visited Summer Wells' home. And what he found might surprise you. And while you're there, please hit the like, subscribe, and hype this episode. I want to thank you for being here. I'll keep you updated on the case. Until then, take care of yourself, and I'll see you next time.